Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're finally back with a video with regards to the penalty system on Gran Turismo Sport at the moment. Now, we are awaiting an update that is going to come to the game very soon, as is demonstrated right now. The penalty system is absolutely terrible in this game, as you see there. Josetti getting a 6-second penalty at Spa. I took this from Twitter. I have seen so many penalties that I've took and had a look at and analysed, and it's in a terrible situation. However, we do have an update coming to the game tomorrow on Thursday the 9th of January that we have no idea what it's going to include. It's very unlikely to include any content, so my guess is it's going to be bug fixes. Let's all pray that it is a fix for this current state of the penalty system, because it is not good at the moment. There's also a possibility it could be a fix for the ABS glitch, but let's go back and take a look at some of the penalty system penalties that are being dished out on this game at the moment, and it is really in a sorry state at the moment. Let's take an example here. In a Group 4 race at Bathurst, I think this was last week, I was behind this when this happened, so you see the yellow McGann coming through, and you can see straight away this could be an instant. However, the red McGann stays wide, gives him space. The yellow McGann gets off the curb, actually hits him on the side. Red McGann gives him space, does the overtake back, gets himself in the position, defends that position very well. However, just take a look at this right now. This is probably the worst, one of the worst penalties I've seen on the game. 8-second penalty for nothing. Totally within his rights to defend. Again, we see another problem with the penalty system is when another car spins and then wipes other cars out. So you see this Porsche on the left hand side, his left hand tyres are going to clip that grass on the left hand side, and he's going to lose control of his car. He hits two drivers. I think this is Sard, Sasamo Sard, our stream moderator on the channel there, picking up a penalty. Now just take a look, 7 seconds and 4 seconds. So he gets no penalty. The car that makes the original mistake, the two drivers in front pick up a pretty nasty penalty. Now we're on board with Will, another person from our streams that we see very often, and top split driver. Going down the inside, a nice move there, tiny bit of contact, but 10-second penalty, and then a rage moment. I had to actually mute the audio from that, by the way, apologies for that, because he had some music on in the background, and obviously we can't have that running on YouTube. So unfortunately there, another penalty. This is myself now going into turn 1 at Fuji. Now there is a bit of contact, but I keep my car straight here. We both just basically move over, tiniest bit of contact. There is nothing at harm with that at all. Into the braking zone, you see in slow motion, he's still on the left, I'm on the right, and a 10-second penalty. It seems to be a situation where if you're going into a braking zone and there's any sort of contact between you and the car in front, and you then pass that car, you get an automatic 10-second penalty, or between 4 and 6, 8 and 10, it goes up in 2-second penalties for contact. It's in a very bad state. Now we have this example again, car in the middle, not really doing anything wrong. He's in the middle, he's trying to keep safe. Car left goes on the grass, knocks into the car in the middle. Then we have the pinball physics, and then we have a situation again where the two cars, the innocent parties, are penalised, and the car that actually causes it by going onto the grass, I don't think it was deliberate, picks up no penalty. It's just such a strange situation going on in the game at the moment. Now we go on board with Francis, going at Spa in the Group 4 Nations race recently. Into the braking zone, you see he gets past that car that ran wide. Now this is pretty funny, I have to say. I laughed at this one quite a bit. So the car in front, you see a bit of lag there. I think his connection is failing. So auto drivers took over, and auto drive does not drive, it will just push you off. It pushes Francis off the track. Francis goes back on the track, then uses some magic, disappears that car, obviously disconnected, and a 10-second penalty because auto drive pushed him off the track. Come on, Polyphony, this is just not good enough what we're looking at right here. This is stuff that is going to stop people playing your game. It is laughable. And then we see utter chaos again, cars wiping out. You see the instigator of that incident going into the braking zone far too fast, no penalty. Everyone else picks up a penalty. So I think 3 cars actually picked up a penalty from that, apart from the driver that actually rear-ended. So it's such a strange situation. We've seen it with people bump drafting as well, where the driver actually hitting the car behind gets no penalty, and the car in front's been getting the penalty. And this was supposed to be fixed with this improvement in system. Again, another totally unjust penalty there. And then we go on board with a penalty received by myself, and I was obviously quite annoyed with this. You're going to see going into the braking zone, through here, car spinning off everywhere. Now, there was contact, but he was going in the pits anyway. But because he pitted, it's a new bug on this game. We have actually tested it out live on stream. If you get contact and then that guy pits, you get a 6-second penalty because the game sees you have pushing them off track even though they've gone in the pits. Now, TRL Adam here, trying to avoid everyone that goes off in front of him, goes through, no issue for TRL Adam, picks up a 6-second penalty. It is in such a terrible state that we really need to get this message to Polyphony. I really hope that this update tomorrow is going to fix these issues as we see again. Then Quentin again, just staying out of trouble, and then it all kicks off behind him because of the original contact he makes. The game perceives that he is at fault for all of that 4-second penalty. Now, there is one other game that I think has a system that works better than GT Sport, and that is iRacing. Now, iRacing is not perfect by any means. This is just some normal footage from iRacing from a long time ago when I was actually quite competitive on the game. You can see actually running in P2, I think in a 3.6k strength of field race. I'm doing quite well, but yeah, iRacing's incident system is a little bit different to GT Sport. They run a similar system in terms of your drive rating. On iRacing it's iRating, and this on iRacing the safety is obviously your safety rating. On GT Sport it is your sportsmanship rating. So the difference here now is they don't give penalties out in terms of slowdowns for contacts. There are slowdowns if you do major cuts on the game. This is the system that I think Gran Turismo could incorporate some sort of hybrid system of this, because there are penalties in terms of if you cut a corner drastically, you get a slowdown, and yeah, you get punished. However, little ones where you run gradually wide off the track, say a little bit of understeer, you go off, you lose a bit of time, you'll get a ×1. Now, every race on iRacing, the majority of races have a 17 limit. So if you exceed that 17 incident limit, you are likely to get disqualified from the race and you are chucked out of that lobby. Now, some races have more incidents. I think it depends on the length of the race. Obviously, the race, I think most of the races between 30 to an hour are 17 incident limits. Now, I haven't played iRacing for a long time, so I may not be 100% correct, but that is the system they used to run. And it basically incorporates a system of ×1 for minor track violations where you run an inch wide. Say, for example, this corner, you run slightly wide there, you get a ×1, and that goes towards your 17 limit. Minor contact, I think, is like ×2, and severe contact is ×4. Now, it does genuinely give out the ×4 contact. If two cars come in together with contact, it will genuinely just give both drivers ×4. Now, you might say, well, this isn't fair. You're both getting punished. However, the big difference with iRacing is you're not going to get a penalty. So on GT Sport, you're still getting that unjust penalty. However, you're then losing time in the race. So obviously iRacing incorporates damage, so this is where the penalty system needs to differ from GT Sport, and I think there needs to be some sort of hybrid system, because obviously contact on iRacing is punished by damage as well, whereas on GT Sport it's just given out as a slowdown, which is something they need to repair. Because tiny bit of contact, say for example you're going into this corner up ahead side by side, both of you tap just very gently, you both get through the corner, but one driver gets a 2-second penalty just because you had contact in the corner. On iRacing, no one is in harm. You're very likely to even get a contact. You might get a ×1 or just a warning system on it where it goes it's like a ×0, but it just warns you as long as there's no major contact. This is something that GT Sport needs to incorporate so that racing is not punished. Racing is a non-contact sport, we know that. However, you do get a slight amount of side-on-side contact if you're going into a corner side by side and you're both pushing. As long as respect is maintained and people are not pushed off the track, etc., or rammed into the corner and stuff, and you both go through the corner, then yeah, I think that's what we want to see on racing games. We want people to be battling. We don't want people to be scared, which at the moment on iRacing, I'm sorry, on GT Sport, people seem to be quite scared of racing. However, it is having a knock-on effect where I think it's actually causing people to be quite annoyed, and you can see it in the drive. And I think recently on Gran Turismo Sport, people are driving angry. They're getting angry at the penalty system, which is making them cause more incidents, more penalties are given. It's an absolute penalty fest at the moment on Gran Turismo Sport, and I really hope that Polyphony will do something to look into this for a future update. Now, we all can pray about this tomorrow, that this update on the 9th of January is going to be a fix or revert the penalty system. However, I think to ask for that is going to be quite a lot. I think to reverse coding and put it into an up-to-date version of the game could be quite in-depth task. I don't think it's as easy as what a lot of people think. Now, I would love to see a hybrid system of the Gran Turismo and iRacing penalty system, because I do think that some contacts do need a penalty. I think there could be a different way of running this this system that they have at the moment. I would like to see a totally different system for GT7. So just to give you an example on iRacing, what actually happens is you see in front there, a car spun in front of me. I've gone into the driver, and you can see I've actually received ×4. Even though it wasn't my fault, I do receive the ×4. Now, obviously on iRacing, your race is over anyway, so it doesn't really matter that you've received ×4. But say there was slight contact, you both carry on, you both would receive the ×4, but there is a 17 limit, as you can see on that screenshot. So that is how the system works. You hit that 17 limit, you are disqualified from the racing. Now, Gran Turismo Sport could incorporate a different system. I've spoke about this so many times, and I would like to see some sort of system where minor track limit violations, where if you think about this, it's a 30-minute race. In real life, drivers make errors and they run a little bit wide, they take a little bit more off the corner than they should, and they are not punished with a time penalty. As long as you're not gaining a massive amount, you know, the majority of track extensions where you run a little bit wide on this game with the dirty tyres will cost you time anyway. So I think that if they get the system correct, they could have a different system. I would like them to incorporate a free strike system. We talked about this a long time ago for track limits. Now, my idea for this is you have 3 X's in the top, top corner, just small ones. You run off the corner, you run a little bit wide, you pick up dirty tyres, you lose a bit of time, but you've ran wide. Fair enough, you made the mistake. Instead of throwing a 1 second or half a second penalty at you, how about giving you an X through one of your 3 X's? Maybe it's in black to start with, and then when you get one, it goes red. So you know you've got 1 gone, 2 left. Now if it happens again, you've got 1 left, and if you then get that 3rd one, which is most people can last a race without 3 track incidents in terms of track limits, I think, on a 30-minute race, or if you do go over that, I think it's about time that you do receive some sort of penalty. So at this point, I think there needs to be maybe a 3-second penalty instant or something like that, that then you get the 3-second penalty. Just something there, just to give you a couple of warnings at least before just throwing these random penalties at people, especially with some of the track limits being very inconsistent. A perfect example of that was Circuit de la Sarthe. On yesterday's stream, you saw a lot of people picking up very random penalties. 1 minute you feel like you've done it perfect, it gives you a penalty. Then you feel like you've cut it, and you don't get a penalty. So I think this system could be beneficial to everyone. It would probably increase the temperament of most drivers, because a lot of people are getting very annoyed with the penalties that they're picking up on the game at the moment. However, I still think there needs to be some sort of system similar to what we've got in the game at the moment for like collision penalties, because the reason iRacing can run their collision penalty system the way they do is because they have damage on there. Now, we have tried damage on Gran Turismo Sport and it does not work. It's just not enough respect in the lobbies, I think, for it to work. And with the pinball physics that Gran Turismo has, it really does not. Like, collisions tend to just cause more incidents. They cars ricochet off another car, they bounce into another car. So what was happening when we tried the heavy damage was you were going into turn 1, a car behind would hit last place, that car would pinball into another car, which would pinball into another car, and then the ricochet effect happens, and you'd have a system where 4 or 5 cars, the race was over because of heavy damage, and there was no way of them recovering that unless they pitted, which would then lose them so much time to repair that damage. So I don't think that is the answer. Heavy damage is not the answer for Gran Turismo Sport. I think weak damage is fair enough, it will go after time. If they improve the contact physics for the next Gran Turismo, then we can obviously go and look into having a more in-depth damage model and incorporating it into FIA, because we need collisions to actually, they need to be able to take some of the force off of each other when 2 cars come together, rather than just ricocheting away from each other. But at the moment, I think it's pretty clear that the current penalty system it's possibly the worst it's ever been, I think, since I've been playing this game in 2 years. Now, there has been phases when it's been very close. We tend to go through phases of it getting a little bit better, then it will get drastically worse, then it will go a bit better, then it'll get drastically worse, then it'll go a bit better, and then someone will find the bug in the system and exploiting the system in terms of what they can do. They'll try and fix it and they'll make it worse. And I just personally think the current system they're using just does not work. I think it's too complicated for the PS4 to achieve what it's trying to do. I think maybe on the next GT7, if the PlayStation 5 is obviously a lot more powerful, hopefully they can add some more variations into the algorithm of what determines a penalty. If they continue with this penalty system, it needs to improve massively. I personally think they need to scrap this system for the next game. They can't scrap it for this game because this game is too far along. All they can do is just try and tone it down. I think we need to just go back to less aggressive approach to the penalties, because the algorithm on this penalty system cannot determine who is at fault for instance. So you just can't be giving out 10-second penalties for basically going door to door into a braking zone. It's not good for the racing, because then that driver gets angry. A lot of drivers then get retaliation, and you've seen it recently. So the driving in these races recently, I've seen even race B's and C's, has been the worst it's been for a long time. So this penalty system is not helping driving. It's not making people drive less aggressively, it's making it worse. I think people are driving very annoyed, and it's affecting the overall races from daily race A, B, C all the way through to FIA races. It's not just an FIA situation, this is definitely a daily race situation as well that needs fixing, to stop the casual player getting annoyed and putting the game down and moving away, because a lot of casual players that just jump on a couple of times a week will not want to jump on to do a daily race C, to pick up a 10-second penalty for something that was not their fault. So I really hope that Polyphony will listen, incorporate some ideas or some changes, the free strike system for track limit penalties, other system for contact. Maybe we could have a strike system for minor contact as well, compared to aggressive contact. Yeah, I agree, aggressive contact means car wipe each other out, and it's, you know, quite a force that goes into it. We need a penalty straight away. But slight side-on contacts that are not deliberate, it's very hard for the game to determine this. This is what I do understand. It is so hard for a penalty system to know what is deemed as respectful and what is not. But something has to change, because we cannot carry on racing with this current penalty system. I would quite happily go back to the older system. It did have its flaws, but at least we could race with it. You could battle, you could do overtakes, and in general I found the racing a lot cleaner. For example, now we're racing on the screen at the moment. This was the top 16 race. There was a few incidents, it wasn't anything too drastic, but people were racing, people were overtaking, and this was on the older penalty system, not the current one. It did have issues still then. I think they say they're constantly updating it and looking to improve it, but for me, a lot of the time, the majority of updates to the penalty system make it worse. I really think they need to take a good look at it, and to be honest, there's not an excuse for releasing updates that change the penalty system as bad as it is now, because you have testers, you have the ability to test this penalty system. So surely they could have got 16 people in a lobby and said, let's test this system out that we've just created. Let's spend 24 hours racing it with 16 testers. I'm sure there's 16 testers that would have been willing to do that. And let's see how this penalty system reacts in group 1, 2, 3 and 4, a couple of races, different tracks, and they would have instantly seen it does not work, because it didn't take us long to see. I think it was the first streamer testing out the update. We saw at Laguna Seca when we were testing it out, it was broken. I said straight away, this penalty system is broken, it is not going to work. And look what's happened. A lot of people, all you see on social media now is people's examples of penalty systems, which is where we've got a lot of our examples from at the start of this video. So let's hope Polyphony will sort this out. I know I've been going on quite a bit here and ranting about it, but I really want this game to improve it, because this is the best console racing game out there by a long way. There is no other console game, racing game, simulation racing game that even comes close to Gran Turismo Sport in terms of the competition, the enjoyment, the immersion, the thrill that you get when you're racing side by side with drivers. It's an amazing feeling. So you have to give them credit, because the penalty system kind of helps towards that, but they've just gone too far with it this time, so hopefully they can get it sorted. Anyway, that's enough from me. Please make sure you hit that subscription button if you haven't already hit the subscription button. And also, let me know in the comment section about any ideas you have for the penalty system in terms of track limits, in terms of penalties received, whether it be a drive-through penalty for a certain amount of incidents, or automatic disqualification if you receive a 10, maybe times 10 incidents like iRacing's times 17, maybe times 10 for Gran Turismo as well. Let me know your ideas. I want to hear them in the comment section. I want to know your thoughts about the current penalty system versus old penalty systems. Now, I do understand there's going to be people that are going to say this is just whinging and moaning, but it's not. This is trying to be constructive. This is trying to get Polyphony to make this game better for everyone, and let's hope that's what happens. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Hit that like button, and I'll see you all very soon.